Here's the standard form of a quadratic. Y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. If you noticed, I rewrote the a, the b, and the c values in different colors because we really need to know what those values are in order to find the characteristics. Characteristics, as we did on the vertex form, is axis of symmetry. I abbreviated. The vertex is important. And an added bonus, we can also find out the y-intercept using the standard form. So our key letters that we need to use are A, B, and C at all times. So let's see how this works. For axis of symmetry, the first time in vertex form you used x equals h. But in this form there is no h. So we're going to use a formula to figure out what the axis of symmetry is. It's still a vertical line, so we're going to start off with x equals. However, the formula that goes with it is negative b divided by 2 times your a value. Sounds complicated, but it won't after we work some problems. The vertex is still going to be x comma y in this form. It's still a coordinate, but in order to find the vertex, once you find your axis of symmetry x value, you're going to plug in your x value into your standard form equation, work it out to find out what y equals. Then you'll have your vertex. Okay? And lastly, the y-intercept. Remember, the y-intercept is the point of the parabola that is actually hits the y-axis. So that one's going to be 0, comma, wait for it, RC value. 0, comma, RC value. Here's a quadratic function in standard form, where y equals negative 2x squared minus 4x. First, let's identify our a, b, and c values as they are key in figuring out the characteristics that we need. So our a value will be, it's always in front of x squared, negative 2. Our b value is in front of our x term, which is negative 4. And if you notice, it's blank back here since there's no constant term, then our c value for this one is going to be 0. So the first thing I'm going to find out is my axis of symmetry. Remember, I abbreviated. And it's going to be a vertical line equation that starts with x equals the number. Remember, there's a formula to figuring out the axis of symmetry in standard form, and that's negative b divided by 2 times your a. So I'm going to plug in my values. So my b value is negative 4. My a value is negative 2. And I'm going to work it out to see what I get. Let's see, 2 negatives on the top make a positive 4. And 2 times negative 2 is a negative 4. So what's 4 divided by negative 4? You guessed it, or at least you used a calculator, I hope. X equals negative 1. Now let's find our vertex for our parabola. Our vertex, remember, is use your x value from the axis of symmetry, plug it into your standard form equation, and solve for y. So that's what I'm going to do. My x value is negative 1. I'm going to plug in that negative 1. And I'm going to work out my problem. So let's see. Negative 1 squared is positive 1, and positive 1 times negative 2 is a negative 2. Negative 4 times negative 1 is positive 4. And when I add the two together, y equals positive 2. So I have my vertex just like that. My vertex is negative 1, comma 2. All right, our last characteristic that we're going to look for is the y-intercept. Remember, that's really easy. It's 0, comma, our c value. Okay, so our c value is 0. And I already have it y-intercept started here, 0, comma. So all I have to do is plug in my c value. And I got my y-intercept, just like that. Here's another quadratic function. Y equals x squared minus 4x plus 6. Again, let's identify our a, b, and c values. Our a value will be 1 in this case. Our b value is negative 4. And our c value will be 6, positive 6. How did we find out the axis of symmetry in standard form? We used the formula x equals negative b over 2 times our a value. So I'm going to plug in my values. And my b value is negative 4. My a value is 1. On top, negative times negative 4 is positive 4. And on the bottom, 2 times 1 is 2. So what's 4 divided by 2? Positive 2. So that's our axis of symmetry. Now we're going to find the vertex. Remember, the vertex is a coordinate point, x comma y. We already have our x value, so I have to plug in my x value into my original equation and solve for my y. Okay, so I'm rewriting my original problem with my parentheses. I'm going to plug in my x value, which is 2, which I got from my axis of symmetry, and plug it in, and I'm going to work it out. So let's see, 2 squared is 4. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. I'm going to bring down my 6. 4 minus 8 is negative 4 plus 6. And negative 4 plus 6 is positive 2. So that's our y value down here at the bottom, which means our vertex is 2, comma 2. Our last characteristic that we're going to find is y-intercept. Remember, it's 0, comma your c value. Since we already identified way at the beginning what our c value was, which was 6, then our y-intercept is as simple as 0, comma 6. Here's another standard form quadratic equation. Identify your a, b, and c values. Our a value is negative 1 in this case. Our b value is negative 2. And our c value is negative 8. Remember how we find out what the axis of symmetry is? We use the formula x equals negative b over 2 times a. You plug in your b and a values respectively where they go and work it out. So my b value is negative 2 and my a value is negative 1. When I work out the top, 2 negatives make a positive 2, and on the bottom I get a negative 2. So what's 2 divided by negative 2? I get a negative 1. Now we're going to find our vertex form. Our vertex is that coordinate point, the turning point of the parabola that's in the middle of the graph. Remember, we already have our x value from doing our axis of symmetry part. So all we have to do is plug in the negative 1 into our original equation and solve for y. So I have y equals negative parentheses squared minus 2 parentheses minus 8. And I'm going to plug in the values, negative 1, negative 1. So I'm slowly going to start working this out. First off, negative 1 squared is positive 1, but because of this negative on the outside, it turns right back into a negative 1. Here we have negative 2 times negative 1, which is positive 2, and the minus 8 tacks on at the end. Negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1 minus 8, which gets us all the way down to y equals -7. So that means our vertex is -1, comma, -7. Y-intercept should be your favorite thing to find because it's the easiest. Y-intercept is always 0, comma, your c value. And since we already pre-identified what our c value was, which is -8, then our y-intercept is simply 0, comma, -8.